The food and drink suppliers have always been some of the most important warrant holders to the palace. One of the first monarchs to grant royal warrants was King George IV, who used to entertain on a grand scale, turning his new London home, Buckingham Palace, into the gastronomic centre of England. His wine supplier then, and still providing wines and spirits to the royal family today, are Berry Brothers and Rudd.
Berry Brothers and Rudd, in one form or another, has been operating on this site for over 300 years. So, founded in 1698, the company originally sold coffee and then latterly took on cocoa and tea, snuff, spices, essentially anything that was exotic and new and interesting that was coming from the New World, and became very much a sort of London's premier grocer. And to a great extent because of its proximity to St James's Palace and the fashionable area that it was in. So one of the interesting and slightly bizarre historical documents that we have here at Berry Brothers and Rudd is a list of the weights of our customers, which go back to the mid-1700s. We had the scales here that were used to weigh produce, but then later on it became a novelty, almost like an early marketing exercise to weigh our customers, because people were interested in their weights for the same sorts of reasons people are today. But if they wanted to know their weight, they would have to pay a physician to tell them. They didn't have bathroom scales. Most people didn't even have bathrooms. And so if they shopped at Berry's, they could be weighed for free. And it just became something fun that people did, something fashionable. People would gather here and gossip, and everyone would be weighed. And then they would go for lunch, and sometimes they would come back and be weighed again. And the original ledgers go back a long way, and we can see that we have these records going back to 1765. And among them, we have the sort of great and good of the day, including Lord Byron, for instance, the poet and Regency dandy. So it's a slightly rambling and odd social document, but completely unique. We actually had our first royal warrant awarded in 1903 by Edward VII. And more recently than that, in the run-up to our celebration of our 300th year, we received a royal warrant from His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales in 1997. Now let me take you down to our cellars, where you can see some of the oldest parts of the building. So here we have a selection of wines from the family's wine collection, we call the House Reserve, and this is the oldest part of that collection, with Hungarian sweet wine Tokaj that goes back to the early 19th century. Through here you can see original William and Mary period brickwork, and this is the oldest part of our cellar, where we store fine wines that are available for sale here in the shop. The royal cellars are stocked very much with a view to what will be needed in the future, and not just what's needed at any given time. So undoubtedly there are specific events that require wines, but the people who work on the committee for the royal cellars are thinking about what wines will be required and for what function, over the next 20 to 30 years. Through here you can see some of the oldest parts of the cellar, where we still store wines that are available for sale in the shop, and we label the bins on these chalkboards to indicate what's actually stored here. And this is where we store some of the most prestigious wines that we sell, and in fact some of the most prestigious wines that are available anywhere in the world. Wines like Petrus from Pomerol, for instance, which has a massive reputation and a price tag that matches. And actually here you can see the Mouton Rothschild that Prince Charles himself did the label for, a tradition that dates back at this estate a very long time. And he was honoured to do this label in a celebration of the Entente Cordiale. Well, it's a great endorsement of the quality of your business, and for us, it's a real honour. The warrants are awarded after a minimum 5 years of providing goods or services to the royal family, and so it really shows that you have the quality and that you can sort of sustain a very high level of service in order to do that. And of course, our association with the royal family is much older than our Royal Warrants, so it's a very proud association for us. One of the interesting curiosities in the shop here at St James's is this miniature wine cellar, which is part of the wine cellar that was commissioned for Queen Mary's Doll's House. So in 1920, the Queen Mary's cousin, with Sir Edwin Lutyens, started developing an idea for a very elaborately constructed doll's house that would give an indication of how the royal family may well live. And as a royal warrant holder, Berry Brothers and Rudd, or Berry Brothers and Co, as we were at the time, were asked to make a contribution in the form of the wine cellar. And so anything that was written on the bottles, these miniature bottles of wine, actually went into the bottles. So if it said Haut-Briand or Dichem or Cordon Rouge from Mum, for instance, that wine would actually be in the bottles. It's quite incredible.
Well, the late Queen Mother is always being accused of being a great tippler, which she was, and made no secret of it. And her favourite drink was actually martini, made with gin. And she also loved champagne. And at lunchtime, she always had like a half bottle of champagne by her place. But I think they started the martinis sort of 11:30 in the morning. And so everyone in the Queen Mother's household was quite well oiled.